But the WNBA All-Star Game ratings have come out, and all I could think of right off the bat was 4 little letters. F-A-F-O. F around and find out. You bleep around and find out what this league looks like without Caitlin Clark being involved in your biggest events.
A 40% decline. That's the disastrous figure the WNBA is currently staring at after its All-Star Game ratings were published. Isn't a dip, it's a nosedive off a cliff. To put it in context, the league's biggest event of the year pulled in fewer views than an ordinary regular season game featuring Caitlin Clark. The experiment is over. The league was told what would happen if it shelved its primary draw, and today the results are clear. This is the story of a foreseeable collapse, and the financial bleeding has only just begun.
Liberty is playing the best style of basketball. They are playing the best basketball currently in the WNBA. And when they just had a nationally televised game on ESPN against the Chicago Sky, against Angel Reese, who was one of the biggest names in the WNBA, they had around 600,000 viewers, which is so low. You cannot make fans watch what they don't want to watch. But all we heard last year is if the fans were only watching the Indiana Fever, only watching games Caitlin Clark was playing in, then they weren't real fans and they didn't like basketball. And you just had so much media and WNBA personalities and even players just shunning the new fans.
The All-Star Game was simply the top of the iceberg. The league's premier event, its showcase of talent, pulled in just over 2 million viewers, a shocking failure that validates their darkest concerns. But the rot extends deeper. The Indiana Fever's own television viewership is down over 53% since Clark has been out. The data don't simply show a drop, they reflect a complete evacuation of the casual audience. The lights didn't just dim on the WNBA, they were flicked off by millions of remote controllers, leaving the league in a darkness of its own design.
Fever Sky tickets dropped 71% on TickPick after Caitlin Clark injury. The get-in price for the Chicago Sky versus Caitlin Clark's Indiana Fever game was $86. After Caitlin Clark's injury announcement is now down to $25. And you Angel Reese fangirls will still believe and think that Angel Reese is the reason why people are watching the WNBA. Since y'all want to make it about race, this white girl over here is the reason why fans are tuning in to watch the WNBA.
But the TV ratings were only the digital ghost of the problem. The real-time financial bleeding was happening in stadia, where fans were voting with their wallets. The most damning evidence came from a scheduled game between the Indiana Fever and the Chicago Sky. Before Clark's injury, the cheapest ticket to get in the door was a solid $86. The moment her injury was publicized, the identical ticket plunged to just $25, a 71% loss in value overnight. This wasn't a theory anymore. It was cold, hard cash. The so-called Caitlin Clark impact was a measurable financial factor. And without her, the market didn't simply cool off. It disappeared.
You see, this is exactly what we were talking about. WNBA All-Star ratings are in for 2025, and it is down 40%. 40% from last year. That's bad. That is really bad. We already watched the ticket prices drop by more than 50% because Caitlin Clark was not playing. This is bad news for the WNBA.
So check this out. The game on June 7th, the tickets were originally $86. Same seat, now $25. After her injury announcement, 71% drop in price. Over 71% drop in price. Because she's not going to be in the game.
So, how did the league walk itself into this disaster? It wasn't simply one injury. This was a catastrophe produced from a peculiar self-destructive mindset that had been developing all season. For months, a weird notion was promoted by certain players and media personalities that the millions of new fans going to the WNBA weren't actual fans since they were only there to see Caitlin Clark. Instead of welcoming the rising wave of new interest with open arms, they were gatekeeping it, ignoring the very individuals filling the seats and shattering viewership records. And now the league is left staring at the empty space where those false supporters used to be, wondering where everyone went. They went where they were welcome.
If you consult the graph that I've just posted here, you'll see that nobody is watching the WNBA. That's the reason why the WNBA isn't making... Oh, sorry, I missed a few of them. So this is the reason why the WNBA isn't making any money, and they're not getting paid. It gets worse.
While the league was busy alienating its new audience, a much more tangible threat was knocking its stars off the floor one by one. Clark was the first significant domino to fall, but she was far from the last. Soon, Angel Rhee was sidelined. Then Sydney Colson. Then Lexi Hall went down in a play that appeared utterly unnecessary. It started to feel less like a series of poor luck and more like a troubling pattern. And a rising number of people are pointing their fingers in one direction. The officiating, the refereeing, this season has been criticized as poor at best and hazardous at worst. Calls are missed, dangerous plays are ignored, and players are being put in harm's way.
Given Clark's unprecedented star power, her being confined to the Fever's Gamebridge Fieldhouse sidelines was always going to impact ratings, and she was actually there. It was her team. And the fans sent a clear message.
Person who really should get all the blame is Kathy Engelberg. Yes, this is Kathy Engelberg's doing. You know why? Because she has incompetent referees.
And what is that product left on the court? A ghost town of amusement. With the superstars gone, games have degraded into something resembling preseason scrimmages televised on national television. The energy has been utterly sapped out of the arenas. You may hear the lonely echo of a bouncing ball in half-empty stadiums. Commentators sound strained, desperately trying to add enthusiasm into slow, low-scoring games. It's like going to a rock concert only to find out the band was fired and replaced by the sound guy whistling into a microphone. The WNBA is trying to market an entertainment product that is right now just not enjoyable.
As the All-Star ratings were confirmed, and I have to say, not ideal. Not ideal for the WNBA. And I'll take a look. So, the WNBA All-Star Game had 2.19 million viewers. Like, we can't forget last year peaked at over 4 million. This, in fact, is less viewership than an average Caitlin Clark game.
This breakdown shows a fundamental and probably fatal flaw in the league's whole structure. This is when the WNBA's dilemma becomes terrifyingly evident. When an NBA great like LeBron James or Steph Curry gets injured, the league doesn't implode. Storylines persist, rivalries boil, and other stars move into the forefront. The NBA has built decades of depth. The WNBA, on the other hand, constructed its entire 2024 return on the shoulders of one or two personalities. They didn't develop a sustainable ecology. They designed a fragile attraction, a house of cards that was bound to fall the moment a critical component was removed.
This should be a straight up wake up call. With the ticket prices dropping, and now you see the show, the ratings fell tremendously, and it was an awful game. So that large percent of people who did not watch, they probably had a better Saturday than everybody else. We just got to be real.
It's not simply the on-court product that's failing. The league's entire marketing and media apparatus seems shattered. Broadcasters are locked in a holding pattern, clinging to ghosts. Instead of pivoting to build up the active players, they are still broadcasting highlight reels of the absent stars. You can hear the desperation in their voices as they try to promote a game that no longer contains its major characters. Any other professional league would transition into strong promotion of its secondary stars, but the WNBA looks stuck, hoping nostalgia for last month will be enough to sell tickets for tonight. It's an approach that is intentionally reminding viewers of what they're missing.
The three-point contest or the All-Star game, both of which she was planning to do because of a groin injury. This goes right to the Indiana Fever management and leadership as well. Better know whatever consequences the WNBA suffers from Caitlin Clark not being around, as will you.
The stillness is deafening, especially online. Where there used to be a continual stream of viral clips, heated argument threads, and memes lighting up social media, today there are crickets. The digital buzz has virtually vanished. Engagement on official posts is cratered, and the internet debate has moved from excitement to negativity. Complaints about the officiating, the uninteresting games, and the league's stunning fall. Brands invest in relevancy and cultural chatter. And for now, the WNBA has neither. The league has become a digital ghost town, a place where the only echoes are recollections of how vibrant it used to be.
I'm not going to ignore, nor am I going to take my eyes off of what transpires with the WNBA over the next 2 weeks while Caitlin Clark is out with the quad strain.
All of this is heading to one ultimate nightmare scenario, the darkest possible ending for the league. The WNBA is presently on a trajectory to host a postseason and a championship that almost no one outside the dedicated fan community will even be aware is happening. Imagine a trophy being lifted in a silent arena, a moment that should be the peak of the sport, yet fails to generate a ripple in the public mind. This isn't simply about losing revenue for one lousy season. It's about the league's crowning achievement becoming culturally irrelevant. It's the athletics equivalent of a tree falling in an empty forest. A silent, undetected conclusion.
It was also reported that the Indiana Fever television viewership is also down over 53%. Now, I know a lot of us were expecting some sort of dip since Caitlin Clark has been out with injury, but I don't think all of us were expecting the entire viewership of the entire WNBA to be down.
In a problem of this scale, fingers automatically start pointing upwards to the very top. The question must be raised: where is the accountability from the league's leadership? Commissioner Kathy Angelbert has overseen a season where the single greatest asset in the league's history was not appropriately protected. The refereeing dilemma falls immediately within her purview. Her office failed to set standards that kept its stars secure, and it failed to adapt when those stars inevitably disappeared. It was a catastrophic failure of vision and execution. A circumstance when leadership seems to watch the home burn down without grabbing a fire extinguisher.
So lads, this is very, very concerning if you're the WNBA coming into the CBA. It is the worst possible thing that can happen, is the ratings coming out. It is the worst possible thing because you cannot work on the assumption anymore that the league's TV deal is going up. You cannot work on that assumption because the ratings are down over 50%. Fever games are down 53% with Clark out, and it's only national televised games.
The WNBA's timing couldn't be worse. Heading into billion-dollar media rights negotiations, they were riding the Clark effect a royal flush. Now, ratings have collapsed, leverage is gone, and that payday may have gone up in smoke. The league ignored warnings, alienated fans, and failed to protect the players who brought them back from obscurity. The real question isn't survival, it's whether the millions who came for a once-in-a-lifetime talent will ever return. Once that magic and trust are gone, they rarely come back.